Hello everyone, welcome back to OWTV. I'm joined today by ChrisTFer, head coach for Spacestation Gaming, as they continue their quest for playoffs. Welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Actually, a pretty exciting weekend of Overwatch, all things considered. So, hell of a weekend. You've come through... Not unscathed. You can be scathed, though. It's not fatal. It's not fatal, though, and that's the important thing. Still in it. I thought we'd go through chronologically, because obviously you had the big game first against Geekay Esports, a rematch, and it felt really almost deja vu in terms of a lot of the maps and the comps that was played. You guys start on Samoa, the same map they actually picked against you the week before. So what was the thinking going into that? Because you got a pretty similar sort of Zarya versus Ram matchup again here as well.
Yeah, I think we were kind of just back and forth on Lijiang and Samoa. I think we practiced both during the week so that they would obviously get our scrim codes and then also have to prepare both of them. We felt that if there was a situation where we didn't ban the Ram on map 1, we would be able to beat it easier on Samoa than Lijiang, because obviously there's a little bit more space to work with, and it maybe felt like whatever ban situation we were put in, Samoa is in theory easier for what we try to do.
Saw on this as well, you give up for first ban as well, and this is something you've been doing quite a lot recently. You talk us through the sort of logic behind this and why you're looking to do this so frequently as well.
So I think ultimately, in Overwatch now, I guess you have like two types of teams, right? You have like teams that are really flexible and they'll effectively see the bans and then make a decision, versus teams like us who have like a clear strength. And I guess for us, if it's open, we're going to play our comp, right? Like there's very little decision making. So my kind of feeling is if everything is open, I know they're going to ban something from my comp, right? Like I can't protect Zarya and Lucio and Freya and Tracer. Like it's just I haven't figured out a way to do that, right? So I'd almost rather let you attack what you want, and then I kind of figure out like a counter situation for that, you know? I think, for example, if you look at the Nightmare versus Sakura game, right? Like I think Nightmare have one of the worst drafts I've ever seen there, you know? Like if you look, you know what Sakura are going to play. They've got 2 tanks. Like the decision to ban first on King's Row from Nightmare, even though it was like it's like the I don't know, like it's this not the not brave option. You know, it's easy just to ban first. The fact that they take the Zarya and allow you to second ban the Sim means that all of a sudden Sakura can play their Orisa without the Orisa counter being open. You know, but if Nightmare bans second in that situation, either they're forced to just waste a ban on tank that means nothing, and then all of a sudden I can take like another part of their kit where I can maybe ban the Lucio on King's Row or something, you know? And if they don't protect tank, I can still pick that Zarya ban, but Sim will be open. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like, I think that's what it is. If you're a team that specifically just wants to play what you want to play, I think when everything is open for the bans, I think second ban is better. And later in the series, right, like Nightmare had used Lucio, Kiri, Zarya. So then Sakura should always first ban, just protect TPS, because they're the only 2 pieces of your. They don't give a crap about your monetized, mate. Don't worry about that. Okay.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. My wallet thanks you right now.
Don't worry. They don't care about banning your comp because they've got Zev, right? He's going ban for ban with you on whatever hero you're playing. It's no problem. But it's like, I think in all of these situations, if Nightmare wanted to force like the Ram versus the Zarya and maybe the Sim versus the Orisa, if you ban second in those early situations, you can make it happen way easier than the other way around.
So we kind of maybe saw that situation a little bit with Genji and VP as well. By the time it sort of got to map 5, it was in a situation where there was just too many things to protect left.
Yeah.
And there was no way to actually they had to tank something one way or the other. So if you're gonna tank it, then you might as well try and enable whichever sort of alternate option you're gonna have to try and plug in.
Exactly, right? Like it was the same in our first GK series when we won, you know, it's like, oh, why go to King's Row and let them ban Zarya is what people would say or were saying, you know? But it's like, Zarya's getting banned, mate. Like it's happening at some point during this series. Let's not like kid ourselves. Like no one's not banning these heroes. So instead of being like, I see some teams like that are just like protect, and it's like, well, there's only so long you can protect, you know. Like you just got to kind of say, well, listen, if you're gonna ban Lucio, just get it over and done with, and then at least it frees up the bans later down the line. And then when it's only Zarya that hasn't been banned, then I can maybe go first and protect it or something like that.
So with all of that in mind, what do you think changed about the matchup? Because it felt like maybe, especially after the Extinction game, there was a lot of sort of talk. I think when we spoke to Chronic of like, maybe we need to revisit the comps or we need to rethink how we approach some of this. But ultimately your solution has been, what if we just Zarya a bit better? So how did you sort of come to that conclusion, and what's the adaptation that makes the difference?
So we don't always Zarya versus Ram. Like I think we have like a few options. I think what we did more than anything, regardless of what heroes we played, is that was like the one thing that we still didn't. I mean, obviously we still lost the Ram, so it's totally like I fucking solved it, you know.
Not quite solved, yeah.
But I think what we did was there was always this question. Okay, every time I talk to anyone in EU, they always say to me, what are you guys doing in NA? Like, how is it possible Ram is played? And I'm like, these guys are the Ram guys in Europe, and they think the hero is unplayable. And then I just sat in loads of EU scrims at the start of the week, you know. And every time there was a Ram versus Diva or Zarya matchup, I'm getting the code of this, and we're watching it. And I think what we realized over time was that there's like the mentality of how do you counter Ram? Well, you got to go around the Ram, right? Like that's the logical thing. Actually, the guy dies a lot if you can get the correct backshot, matrix the heals and stuff like that. So actually what we found was we were giving Ram value by being terrified to play anywhere near him. You just kill him and it's actually fine, you know. So just kill him. It's pretty simple. So I think we, more than anything, we found like we think Freya Tracer is pretty good as a DPS duo versus it, and we think that Diva is pretty good versus it. I think Zarya with the right ban situation, I think can beat it for sure. So I think it wasn't anything specific. It was just we kind of copied what EU did, how they played against it, and kind of learned the pros and the cons, like how to play against the Ram.
Well, I think you saw it. We'll talk about it in a bit, but like the Team Z series maybe felt like a really great example where like Hawk and Sugarfree wouldn't leave Astro alone. They were always behind him, and he was just felt like he actually couldn't play the game. And suddenly Ram felt like the squishiest hero in the server.
I watched like a TM versus Pep scrim, and it was like the same. And it was like Pep's tank he was on Ram, and he was just insta dead every fight. And it's like, okay, yeah. So we just kind of
What if you just shot the guy?
Yeah. It's amazing how little he dies when no one shoots him, you know.
It's a classic Shawfall situation in many ways. The threat of the Ram is actually scarier than the Ram itself.
That's it.
So with that in mind, obviously Samoa didn't actually go the way you had hoped. So where do you think that did, or where did the theory fall down, or what went wrong in that map in particular?
I mean, I think, to be honest with you, the thing is, every time we've played Liquid or GK this season, like, I'm like a big subscriber in Pep Guardiola's like idea of like, just because you lost or just because you won, it doesn't mean that you did everything better than them, you know? Like there was so many worlds in which we could have beaten Liquid, and there was so many worlds which we could have lost to GK the week before. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same thing. Like in this Samoa, there's a moment, if you go back and check, where it's 60% on the third round, so it's 1-1. We kill cover before the fight, and they window 5v4, and we grab it. And that decision itself, that was just game losing, you know? And it's like, within reason, if we'd saved the grab there, then we win that map, and then we're probably having a different conversation right now. We're saying, oh, the theory, it worked, well done, Chris, you're a genius again, you know. Presumably that's what you would say.
I had to cross out the word genius when I was writing the questions this week.
So just replace it with fraud, because instead of it going green, it just goes red. And I think the first round was really bad. Like I think one thing that they did was they were more willing to play the neutral aggressively. Like Lethal was like, he wasn't just like when we played against the week before, they played Sim, and they gave us timings to kill them. Whereas this time they played slow, and then Lethal would jump in, and he was making a big difference. So I think they upgraded their theory a little bit. But I don't know. You replay that map free on that first, we can win it. Like as many times as we lose it, we can win it, you know? And I think there's in professional sports, there's always an element of you just on the day you got to get those decision making right. Like it's the same we do a beat push the fight after, and Chronic doesn't get it, and then he dies, and then all of a sudden, what looks even then a really winnable situation, like it's just one or two small decisions. So maybe we'll look at it a bit more, but I'm not convinced it was like it was. Yeah, it's just
a problem.
Yeah, just they played the specific moments better.
Well, because it kind of felt, once we go over to Rialto, we end up in a Zarya Ram situation again, and this time it actually really feels like you do have their number on the Ram. And all of a sudden, then it's them swapping to Winston when they get to on like the second round and everything like that. So what changes when you have to play it into the Winston version here? Because you guys didn't really necessarily change all that much. You were just able to play a lot of the same things.
And I think we've always been pretty good against Winston and Bull, because I think that's what we've probably done like 90% of our prep this season on, right? Like even when we played Nightmare at the start, they were on Bull. So we, I don't know, I think we more or less understand how to play against dive tanks. I think a lot of it just becomes, all of a sudden you maybe don't have to play as fast and as aggressive, and you kind of just hold the space and wait to punish mistakes. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where the Winston comp is really good if they get like specific ult turns correct. But I think as long as you're able to like match them with a Zarya, Lucio, Kiri comp with your ults, I think you can win.
Because this map, obviously, they actually do manage to get it to like an overtime round. They clutch out. Again, it feels like one of those where there was plenty of opportunities for you to actually stop them somewhere before that full camp. But then you get a gift, a birthday present, a C9 from them in overtime. That really takes a little bit of attention out of that moment. And this kind of felt like a bit of a momentum shift in the series, because then we go over to King's Row, and all of a sudden it feels like they're the ones straining to make things work. There was like a comms listening on the main broadcast on Geekay side, and it all just felt a little bit more frantic than it normally does, and everything felt a little bit rushed, and all of a sudden it felt like Geekay were the ones on the back foot. As you sort of went through that King's Row, did it feel like that to you guys as well, in terms of like you had control of the series again after King's Row?
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely. I think yeah, I guess even though obviously we'll get to New Queen Street and that didn't go, I think in our head we maybe more or less felt like once we get them on like some of these Winston comps and stuff, that's going to be the best case scenario for us. Like I felt like we really felt like we could deal with everything. It was just the question was going to be on the day, could we beat the Ram comps in certain situations? And I think obviously the week before, I think once we got our comp unlocked and once we got cooking, it felt they really like, I guess we felt like we were the better team. And you start to think throughout, especially because it was like Flashpoint and Push left in the series. You kind of thought, this looks pretty good, Might actually qualify for a LAN right here.
Well, it was deja vu, wasn't it? Because it was Flashpoint and Push that was also left at the last week of the regular season as well. And that's in that moment in the regular season, that was where it really felt like you took over the series and they didn't have a look in. Here we go to Aatlis instead. And this is the one that maybe, like, I guess, raised my eyebrows the most, because I was expecting how the nature of the previous two maps, we were probably just going to be in you guys playing Zarya into the Ram or into something like this. But then you guys actually start on the Ram mirror at the beginning of Aatlis. What's different about this map, or why this different approach here?
Yeah, so I think specifically with Aatlis, is we feel like that's maybe like the best Ram map in the game. I think that's why you saw them ban the Junker Queen, just to protect it. I think almost everywhere else is enough space where you can work around him until it's time to push him. And I think that's the one where we were 50-50. And what we ended up doing obviously was we thought, well, let's just Ram mirror, and then if things get tough, we'll go Diva. And then obviously things got tough quite quickly. I think if you look at the series as a whole, I think the one thing, it's always funny, isn't it? Like it was the same when we were together in London, but it always feels like you just need like a loss to identify significant problems. Like for whatever reason, like they either don't happen in scrims or it's really difficult to do. But what I felt across this entire series is if you go back and you watch the first 2 minutes of every map, where we couldn't find a way to play until we got ults, like once we got ults, we were always the better team, like New Queen Street, once we start 120 meters down. We're a better team once we're cooking. And Aatlis was the same, you know. We start 2 points down, and then we start to kind of to get going, and we can make ult plans, and we can go. And then I think we're winning way more fights than we're losing, you know. Like obviously that one insane clutch. But for us, like Rialto, it took us 2.5 minutes before we even like came close to breaking their hold. And once we broke it, we were through. And even King's Row, it was like over 2 minutes to get first, and then we flow. So I think that was the big takeaway, is that we need to find ways to. That's probably what we're going to put a few eggs into the basket this week, of just like, we know how to play once the map is flowing, but we need to find ways to get more involved and to play more aggressive. And I think Aatlis was the perfect example. You know, like we just, even though we go around, we just stand and we just wait for them to punish us, as opposed to, you know, I think trying to, like these EU teams, you know, like the ones that we kind of like mirror ourselves on a little bit. TM aren't standing still, you know. It's just never an option for them. Alcad, that never standing still. Even if they don't have ults, they're never standing still, you know. And I think that's what, if we want to kind of emulate their style and their success, that's what we need to look towards to do this week.
Well, in many ways, that also plays into the style Lethal likes to play as well. If you just want to sort of stay there and play it slow, that just enables Lethal to have a go at the flank and see if he finds the opportunity. And it kind of happened on both maps where Lethal just opened it up really quickly. The same thing happened on New Queen Street. Maybe not quite as dramatic a flank, but like you said, 120 meters down, and then everything feels okay after that if you just ignore the meterage at the top.
It's the one problem with push is, what can you do? Like if you just you lose the first 2 fights, you that should be the real Avril theory, you know. You lose the first 2 fights, you're always losing, you know. Like it's so difficult to come back from that.
It was the nature, I think, of the fights, because if you look at, say, you lose the first fight, so like, okay, Lethal finds a pick. These things can happen sort of both ways for both teams. But then it was, I think, the recontest, like the checkpoint fight, and it just doesn't feel like Hawk can even even entertain the idea of a touch or actually taking a proper fight in that situation.
Yeah, I just think that's it. Just couldn't, because we didn't have an ult to go with, didn't know a way to play neutral. That's what it kind of felt like, you know. And I think in scrims, maybe because there's less pressure on you, let's just play, let's just push, let's see what happens. But in the officials, everything slows down, and then we're like, okay, we really need to wait for a condition, and then all of a sudden the condition doesn't come because we don't force a condition, and then the number at the top is dangerously high.
Yeah, and then stuck in a hard situation where you basically have to play perfectly to get yourself out of it, and then always hard against these top teams. Like Womaine had a pretty great series as well, so you're always inevitably trading in some of these scenarios as well. So overall then, it feels like the impression I'm getting is obviously sad that you lost, but really not end of the world, and still think, you know, if we do like the power levels, I guess, in North America, you're still very much feel you're in the mix with the Geekays and the Liquids?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we did like a VOD review and we spoke about like the idea. You know, Americans don't know the idea of like throwing the baby out of the bathwater. That was like a completely new concept to them. So I did a VOD review on babies in bathwater. But yeah, I mean, the idea is that, like, listen, we were 1 or 2 fights on certain maps away from winning the series. It's hardly like we need to pull the plug and like GK did the week before and change everything, you know. We just need to fix 1 or 2 problems, and just on game day, we just got to shoot them harder than they shoot us, you know?
Not to get lost in the nitty-gritty of it all, yeah.
No, I mean, that's what Rush would say, just shoot them more and look at his success, you know?
Because then you have to play the next day in the lower bracket, and on paper, obviously, an easy game against Team Z, a sort of bit of a mismatch in terms of how the season's gone so far. Were there any nerves at all? Because you guys were the last game of the day, and it did feel like all of a sudden there was something in the air on Sunday, and everyone who was meant to win was losing. Was there any sort of additional nerves as it sort of built up to that moment?
I think after a loss, like a close loss, I think there is this hope as a coach that your players don't read into it and implode, which happens, right? Like it fucking happens, okay? and this idea of like, oh, we can't win because it was a defeat screen instead of a victory screen, that like there is like a huge confidence loss or a huge this or a huge that. And I think there was like a world in which like that Team Z series, if it starts if like map 1, a few things go your way, that you can start to really feel it quite quickly. I think, again, if you look at Nightmare versus Sakura, I think almost immediately Nightmare are like, ooh, okay, we might be in a bit of trouble here, you know? Like if they start fast and you lose a few fights. But I think for us, more or less, it was, I don't know, like I felt as long as we didn't completely like implode, if we were always going to be okay. And then you could kind of see it, like once we settled, it was fine. It just need to kind of manage that first minute or two.
Yeah, because obviously, unexpectedly, you do find yourself up against Sakura, who probably sit in a much more similar boat to you in terms of the style they like to play, maybe particularly the tanks they like to play. So what did you make of that Nightmare Sakura match? Like, how much of this, there's always this question, right, when there's an upset, how much of it was a Nightmare underperformance? How much of it was a Sakura overperformance? How much of this is Nightmare just, blew it? And how much of this is Sakura is actually maybe a real threat now in this lower bracket?
I think we scrimmed Sakura at some point this week. And I remember after a map or two, Hawk said, is there a chance these guys beat Nightmare? There was like, because I think we'd 6-0'd Nightmare the day before. And I think the block before that, it was like a 5-1. So we'd kind of started to feel like we'd figured Nightmare out. Like it was the RAM. Like once we figured out the RAM, and Painkiller was matching Hawk on the Mechanical Heroes, like you said in his interview, it wasn't going well, So like we were quite happy for that mirror. And then for Nightmare, you look at it and you think, I kind of get it. Like I kind of get why you back yourself in the off-tank mirror to just beat this team, right? That was the gamble they took. The gamble they took at the start was, we're going to go band for band with you and we're going to win. And it's only after they lose, you look at it and you think, oh, your ego was too big here, because there is ways that you can pick and you can ban and you can do stuff around that team that's going to feel pretty good, and you didn't decide to do it. And then I guess we're going to come into the same situation this week, right? Like we're going to have to make the decision. And I don't know. We'll see if it's Ilios map 1 or if it's Samoa. Like what we end up doing.
Well, we saw the Painkiller Winston on Gibraltar, and that one went quite well for him.
I mean, well, that's it. It makes you wonder if there was like the draft from Nightmare was so bad. Like they were so panicked, like they absolutely blundered King's Row. Like they lost the draft so hard, and then they went to Jib and they banned Lucio, and it's like, oh well, that's great, isn't it? Let's take the map where they can't win and take our most valuable ban and just throw it in the same place. Like imagine they banned Lucio on Saravasa and they played Squid at different, or they saved it for 5, or they found a way to use it later on in the series or earlier in the series when they got the opportunity to use it. And yeah, I don't know. I just think, I don't know. Like I felt somewhere that like I don't know. The problem Nightmare had is you guys don't see this after watching it, but Nightmare are the least creative team. Their map 1 is our map 1. They just take it. They did the Juno on King's Row. Who beat them with the Juno on King's Row? So they,
you by any chance?
Every comp they've played, the entire stage, they scrimmers. We beat them on this. The next day, it's the same comp, and they just like. There was a brief period when they were playing RAM and we weren't mirroring it, and there was a brief period where it felt there was a difference between the styles. But then once we solved that, it was the same. Diva on this map, Painkiller's on Devo, Zarya, and you would see them swap, like whatever Chronic played, after one fight, Seeker would go back to Sword and you just swap it. And they just played the full mirror. And I think that's what they tried to do again against Sakura. They just take the full mirror in every situation, and they didn't win it. Like Zeb was like 42-4 or something, with like 12 Terra Surges per minute.
I mean, if there's one person you don't want to mirror on the Orisa, it's that guy.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if, like, we'll be in serious trouble.
If Hawk gets on the Orisa,
if we find ourselves in the Orisa mirror, it's gonna be dangerous. I mean, hopefully we can go band for band on the Zarya mirror. I think we might have that. But the Orisa mirror, we're not going near Zeb.
You're not taking the invitation.
No,
Zeb will play it.
I'm sure he will, but we're not doing it. Okay.
It's interesting a little bit it feels like in North America, there's more of like a clear divide in teams between like maybe you, Nightmare, and Sakura in terms of a sort of Zarya heavy sort of ground tank focused teams with like a Diva alternative, and then the Liquids, the Geekays who play a lot of ball, a lot of Winston and Ram, mainly, I think, like as directly into the Zarya here. Do you find that actually, in terms of your preparation, is it almost a bit easier because your biggest rivals play the same style? So say if you look at it from Team Liquid's point of view, they've got to figure out how to beat Geekay in, say, a Ball and a Winston type compositions, and they've got to worry about you guys playing Zarya and D.Va, whereas you almost, I know you do still have to play Sakura, but of the sort of top teams, you only have to deal with a more similar archetype.
Yeah, I think it is quite nice. I think those teams, like, it's funny, there's always this thing that happens, right, in playoffs where it's like everybody is like incredibly short-sighted. You never scrim the team that your next game is against, but even if you know your game immediately after those on the same days versus a team, you'll scrim them, you know? So my week is just Liquid and GK scrims, but they're not going to scrim each other because they play each other first. It's so dumb, right? But that's how it always goes.
I was going to ask, because I think some teams are having this problem of basically, because so many teams are eliminated, there's only 4 teams in each region. Scrims this week are pretty rough for a lot of teams. Like, I think I know Gen G are having to, you know, assemble the mixes and the normal things that always happens to team against playoffs, where you have to sort of hodgepodge an opponent together just to get the practice in. But you're not suffering that problem at all. You've actually got the ideal week of scrims in many ways.
It is quite nice, actually. I mean, we have quite a few EU scrims. I think there's a lot of EU, NA, but those scrims, like, I heard Nightmare, like, again, it's Nightmare, but I heard that they are on boot camp, right? So they did triple block. And I heard that they scrimmed Alcad with no min latency as their first block of the day. And I was like, that is such a confidence ruiner, by the way. Like, you need to, there is no benefit to that scrim. It's only just, because Alcad are insane. And Alcad with 140 ping advantage are insane, you know? And it's like, so I think we have TM today, and I think TM, they're the rudest scrim partners possible. I'm fairly sure we're not allowed min latency today. So we, like, every time we play against an EU team without min latency, you know, it's like, oh, should we change this? And I say to them, listen, guys, trust me on this. If you could win a single deathmatch because you weren't 140 ping compromised, it would be fine, you know? And it's like, we've gotten better as time of scrimming EU teams and accepting that Lenny is on 170 ping. He's going to die on Tracer a lot. That won't happen if we play them. I had the same, remember me and Jamie had the same argument yesterday. He's telling me about, based on scrims, we could beat SGS. Yeah, I'm saying, you can't beat us because you only win with 150 ping advantage, you know? And it's the scrims are close, you know? Like, but to answer your actual question before I got into a ping-related topic is, yes, in theory, assuming that everything holds right now, we have quite a few Liquid and quite a few GK scrims. I'm 90% sure I can't see them scrimming each other for sure, because they probably see each other as rivals for the top 2 anyway, you know?
What do you make of that matchup as well? Because presuming everything goes right against Sakura, which is maybe not as safe a bet as it was 48 hours ago, who do you expect to meet in the lower bracket?
I say this every time, but TL are going to win 3-0. Like, TL should win, like, so convincingly every single time. Like, when we scrim TL, it's like, especially this week, it's so rough. Like, there's so much, it feels like they're the best team. But then every time I watch them in an official, it's like, it's always a dogfight, and I just don't know how it is, you know? Like, based on scrims and everything, TL should smash them. It should be 3-0, but it won't be, you know? Like, it definitely isn't a 3-0, but it should be. But my feeling is TL are going to go to grand finals. Like, that's what I think. And I think TL are probably going to win NA.
So in many ways, you'd probably rather that one as well. Have you done much thinking about, I know you're still 1 game away from booking the ticket, but much thinking about the seeding and where you'd be happier with or anything like that? Or is that too hard to just try and win the games and see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, I just want as much prize money as possible. Okay, so I'm just going to try and win each game. I don't know. I think it is what it is. You know, when we get to international, we'll see what the meta is and we'll see what the crack is. But I think don't care about that. Trying to win it, like I'd honestly, for me personally, maybe my team feel differently. I'd rather win NA and get last place at international than finish third in NA and like finish like top 8 international. Like, I'd rather actually win it, you know? That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think the Hawk said a really similar thing, that that's like, the big goal is win NA. Like, the internationals are always going to be tough and see what happens. Always going to be tough into the Korean teams and everything like this. Don't know what the meta will be, but winning NA would be like a really nice Nice achievement. Then, before I let you go, do you have a message for Sakura before the game, or for the fans, or any shout-outs or anything like that? Any sort of statement, bold, unbeatable statement you want to make to maybe jinx yourself before you go into this important game?
I mean, just understand ChrisTFer, okay? Because you're so close to actually qualifying to LAN. Pressure will be that it's easier to beat Nightmare when there's no stakes, but the stakes are so high now. And there's no Orisa mirrors coming, okay, Zeb? If you're watching, just don't worry about that, okay?
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate your time.